into such a small package, doing things that are difficult even for some scientists to believe. The motor that drives this unique generator is powered by one of the oldest forces in nature, permanent magnets. Now, if you're like me, magnetism has been a source of fascination since childhood. What's the secret of this powerful, invisible force? Why does it attract and repel? How can it defy gravity? Magnets are a mystery even to the brightest of scientists. Whatever force is in them, it is very reliable and present everywhere, anytime, day or night, in hot or cold climates.
I'd like to do some simple demonstrations of the power that we have in magnets. This is a magnet, and it has mass, weight, volume. If I drop it, as you would expect, it falls. It responds to gravity. However, if I take a metallic object like this steel panel and I attach it to the side of the steel panel, you notice it isn't falling anymore. What power is in this that is causing it to defy gravity? That power, it's obviously not plugged into electricity or anything, but that's a tremendous source of power. Wouldn't it be neat if we could plug into the same power that can cause this to continually defy gravity to power our homes and everything else? Now, I have some other magnets here. These are less powerful than those, but you can see they are magnetic. One is holding the other. And what I'm going to do is I'll show you a demonstration. If I take and reverse the poles on this, I've got the north and the south, two souths that are working against one another. Right now they're pushing against each other, and you'll notice what happens when I withdraw one of my hands. When I take my left hand away, it pushed it away. So that's a force of push or a force of pull. Now, so you can see what happens. See, it just pushes it away. Watch what happens when I lift it up a little bit. Do you see the effect on the second magnet? I can control that magnet using the force of this one. So that is a force. Now if I turn them all the way up, it draws it right back to itself again. Show you another idea. It's defying gravity. So now talk about defying gravity. One magnet on the base, the other magnet lifts it right straight up. There's a tremendous amount of power in magnets. These are not very powerful right here, but there's a lot that isn't understood about magnets. And if you're a scientist or you talk to a scientist, scientists don't know everything there is to know about magnetics. This is a piece of copper. Copper is non-magnetic. So it's a non-magnetic piece of copper. You'll notice that the magnet does not stick to the copper. However, look what happens. Maybe we can bring our camera and look into it. Look what happens when I drop this ordinary magnet, or that's not an ordinary magnet, it's a very special magnet, but when I drop this magnet into the center of this non-magnetic material, this specialty magnet, you can see what happens. Now watch, it's kind of like an astronaut floating in space. There it goes. Kind of an interesting experiment. Now, the magnets that we're actually using, this is one of the magnets that's in both the Hummingbird motor and the Sundance generator. There's close to 100 magnets between these two products in unity. Very, very, very powerful magnet. If you got two of these magnets with your finger between them, your finger would be crushed. They're very, very, very powerful. As a matter of fact, I have two of them together right here, and it is impossible for anybody to pull them apart. I'm going to show you the power that there is in this. But this is a very, very, very unique magnet, and this magnet has a tremendous amount of force. Now, just to give you an illustration of that, let me show you what happens when we drop this special magnet down into our non-magnetic copper tubing. See how long it takes for it to go down? It's still going down. I mean, it takes forever for that magnet to go all the way down to the bottom. Even though it does have weight, does have mass, does have volume, it takes a long, long time for it to get all the way down to the bottom of that and finally fall out. So, non-magnetic material, yet look at the effect that we had with these very special magnets that we have. Now, I'm going to give you an illustration over here now. We're going to use a couple of my assistants. And we're going to take these very powerful magnets and we're going to show you how much force it takes to pull them apart. Like you can't do this with your hands. My assistants over here now could just come over on each side. Grab a weight. Now right here we have 25 pounds. Marilyn, you have to stand to the side there. 25 pounds, 10 pounds, and 5 pounds. So that's 40 pounds of weight. Pulling, right here are the two magnets. They're together now. And 40 pounds will not pull them apart. So we're going to put 25 pounds equally on both sides at the same time. So now we have another 50 pounds. We have 90 pounds of force pushing down on these magnets. They still don't do it. So let's take two 5-pounders and put them together at the same time on each side. You notice it still doesn't do it. We're up to 100 pounds of force now of weight. Let's take these 2.5-pound weights, 5 more pounds, and put it on and see if it happens. Well, we're at 105 pounds. I had to use my fingers. So we have roughly 100 pounds of force between these two. Now we'll just take these back off again. Put them on the back. Put them in the back. Now we made another little unit here that we specially contrived. This time we have the two magnets together and we're going to push down on them. How much force does it take to push the two together? The first thing we're going to do is take the 50-pounder. We're going to put a 50-pound weight on that. And we will see what happens. Does it bring them completely together? No. If you look, there's still a space here. They're still not totally together. Marilyn, you put your 25-pounder on. We still do have some space between them, but when we put the last 25 pounds on, 100 pounds, now it all comes together. So you have 100 pounds of force to pull them apart, 100 pounds of force to push them together. These are very, very, very powerful magnets. Now, the next thing I'd like to show you is how does a motor run? How do you get a motor to go around? Well, you have magnets that are attracted and not attracted. So they push and they pull. Well, normally you take electricity, you would electrify a magnet by running electricity and you would magnetize a material. The material then would pull toward another magnet or another piece of metal, and then you demagnetize it so that it'll go past it so you can continue to magnetize, demagnetize, and keep a wheel moving. But you cannot do that with permanent magnets because you can't unmagnetize them. So the reason why they use electricity for electromagnetic motors is so they can magnetize, demagnetize in the proper fashion to get it to run and turn a shaft. Now we're going to show you that you can do that with permanent magnets if you know how to finesse them. David? These are permanent magnets, and there's a permanent magnet at the bottom so that we can use attraction and repulsion in a proper fashion. We're going to turn this wheel for you now, this shaft, using regular permanent magnets. There's not plugged into anything. There's no electricity in this whatsoever, but the wheel is turning. Thank you, David. So those are some of the illustrations of the power in magnets and the way that they can be finessed and used. We can't get into anything proprietarily about exactly the way we're using them in the Hummingbird and the Sundance motor, but I'll show you that, some more footage of that, and you'll be able to see them operate. Most electric motors create rotation by using electricity to briefly magnetize and then demagnetize metals and control the push and pull of magnetic forces. By timing when the metals are magnetic and when they are not, they can make the shaft on a wheel rotate. It's that rotating shaft that drives a generator. Normally this cannot be done with permanent magnets, even though it would require no electricity. That's because the permanent magnets, like the name suggests, remain magnetic all the time. Unlike electromagnets, they cannot be turned on and off. We are developing a way to use a small amount of electricity from a battery to unlock the unlimited power that exists in permanent magnets. When that happens, we not only can get the shaft of the generator turning, but we also can feed electricity back to the batteries and keep them charged. We built a 10 horsepower model of the process and tested it before 45 live audiences nationwide. During those tests, we measured the input from the batteries. We also used a professional metering device to measure the work that we were getting out of the motor. The input from the batteries was measured at 450 watts, while the output of the motor was tested at 3.1 horsepower, which is the equivalent of 2,300 watts. We were therefore able to prove that the output of the Hummingbird motor exceeded the input of the motor by a ratio of 5-to-1. In other words, the Hummingbird put out 5 times as much power as it received from the batteries. The extra energy was supplied by the permanent magnets. It is our belief that the project will soon be completed. When it is, we will be able to put the Hummingbird and the Sundance together and begin manufacturing and distribution. This is a model of what they will look like, completed and ready for installation in